Hello friends, this is Ratnam from Government Degree College Bhutan. Uh, Today's my topic is solutions. This is a part of first year BSc Chemistry. In liquid state unit, we are covering solutions. So in the same liquid state, we have covered what are the different liquids and liquid nature, the structural features of liquids, and other things we have covered. And in this session, we are going to cover up solutions and liquid mixture specifically. What do we mean by solutions? Solutions are already we know that it is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances when they are combined in a molecular level. So this solution must be a clear solution because there must be what molecular level combination should go on. It all depends on what kind of substance we are adding. So depending, already we know that the solids, liquids, gases, different stages, different molecules we know. So we can have number of mixtures by combining all these. But in this lesson, we are going to cover up only liquid plus liquid mixtures. That's it, not others. So we are covering only liquid mixture. Mixture formed by combination of two liquids. So both they may give a uniform mixture, but based on the what liquid combinations, we have two different types of liquid. They are homogeneous as well as heterogeneous. Homogeneous means liquid mixtures they are formed with completely um, mix up and form a single substance. For example, alcohol, like alcohol mixed with any flavoring or any water, even alcohol plus water, it generally gets mixed up. Water plus milk, for example, in our daily life, any kind of juice with water mixed with any flavorings. So all such examples, we don't find any what separation between two liquids. So they form a homogeneous, uniform type mixing is possible. That's what we call as homogeneous mixture. And another type of mixture is heterogeneous, means that they do not mix up. So they are not miscible on each other. So this type of liquid combination where they do not combine uniformly. So that is what we, for example, oil with water. We know that water and oil generally do not mix up because of both are liquids, but because of their different nature, they do not mix up. So that is the reason why that is called heterogeneous. Means they form in two different phases. Both are liquid phases, but they are separable. So they do not mix up; they are separable. So if two liquids, even after mixing, if they remain as separable or exist as separate layers, then that is called heterogeneous. Like any oily compound, any organic compound, if you mix up with any like polar, non-polar or polar substance in organic solvents or liquids, that gives heterogeneous type of mixture. That's what we have to understand. But so based on this categories, we have classifications here. We are now going to study these three types of solutions here: liquid plus liquid. So in one category, we consider that both are completely miscible. They are mixed uniformly. So a completely miscible liquid. And number two, second category is partially miscible. That means they mix up to some extent, but not completely. So partially miscible liquid. And third is totally non-miscible or immiscible. We can it as immiscible liquids. So completely miscible, one category. Partially miscible, second category. Third is completely immiscible. So only three categories for liquid plus liquid combinations are possible. Let us take one by one. For example, completely miscible solutions are nothing but liquids which are miscible in all proportions. Is what we call as completely miscible. That means when we take the both that whatever the proportions. That means if one component, one liquid is taken 1%, another liquid is taken 99%, or if you take 40, 60%, or if you take some 60, 40 or 70, 30, like that any proportion if you take. then they mix up completely. Irrespective of the proportion, they mix up completely. That is what we call as, for example, water and alcohol. Mix anything, even a single drop of water is added to alcohol, or a single drop of alcohol is added to water, they mix up. Benzene, cyclohexane, organic. So like that, they are called completely miscible solutions. Whereas if you take partially miscible solution, means these liquids that are soluble to very small extent is called partially. That means they mix up, but in a specific proportions. Whereas if you change the proportion, then they do not mix up. So this is the nature of partially miscible liquids. So that miscibility depends on the nature of proportion. So, for example, bromine and water, phenol water, aniline water, triethylamine water. So, these are some examples which are generally considered as partially miscible. Means they are miscible to some extent only, but not completely. And specifically, when you take proportions, different proportions, they mix up to some extent. And the third category is totally immiscible solutions. That means they do not mix up with any kind of proportion. Whatever the proportion you take, generally they remain as separated. Even if you drop a single drop of water into oil or oil into water, that will be clearly visible as separate water droplet. So separate phase. So this is what we call as immiscible. That means they do not mix up at any time. For example, water with benzene. Urea oil compound, water is not polar compound. So non-polar, polar, if you take up, they do not mix up in any what proportion. Even 1% they do not mix up. CS to water. So they are good examples of immiscible liquid combination. So they are called immiscible solutions. Again, coming to this completely soluble solutions, we have ideal and non-ideal solutions. What are ideal solutions? Just now we already discussed in gas state that ideal gases and real gases. Similarly, here also we discuss solutions are ideal and non-ideal type. What are the basic features and what are the characteristics to understand what are ideal and what are non-ideal solutions? Let us just try to go through this. For ideal solutions, the most important factor is that Raoult's law. All ideal solutions obey Raoult's law. And if the solution is non-ideal, then they don't obey Raoult's law. Here they are completely miscible, but to some extent they obey Raoult's law, but some examples they don't obey Raoult's law. So this is a clear indication that if it is obeying Raoult's law, it is ideal solution. And if it is not obeying Raoult's law, any deviation is there, then we call that as a non-ideal solution. And delta H mixing should be equal to 0. That is, no heat is absorbed or evolved during the dissolution. That means when two liquids are mixed up, then its heat shouldn't change. It should not be varying. That means the heat is not released nor any heat is absorbed. So delta H change in enthalpy must be 0. No enthalpy change is observed in ideal solution. But if you take non-ideal solution, then delta H is no more equal to 0. Either it is positive or negative. That means sometimes heat is released or sometimes heat is absorbed for non-ideal solution. When both the liquids are mixed up, that means when the mixture is formed, it is either evolved or is released or absorbed. And third category is delta V mixing should be 0 for ideal solution. That means volume should not change. If you take 50 ml of one liquid, 50 ml of second liquid, then after mixing it should be 100 ml only. There should not be any change in the volume. So that is what the meaning of delta V mixing is 0. That means there should not be any change in the volume when they are mixed. But for non-ideal solutions, no. Volume may change. You take 50 ml of one liquid, 50 ml of second liquid, then after mixing, it may be 98 ml or it may be 101 ml. So like that value may increase, value may decrease. So that is possible for non-ideal solution. And the most important is the partial pressure. Ideal solution, what is the partial pressure? That is vapor pressure is equal to its pure vapor pressure multiplied with it mole fraction. That is what actually Raoult's law is. For Raoult's law, that is the ideal solution following the Raoult's law equation is that. Whereas non-ideal solutions, already we told that they do not follow Raoult's law. Next is so this is how we consider based on that components of ideal solutions can be separated in pure form by fractional distillation. If you take ideal solution, then the mixture after forming the mixture, yes, we can separate them by using a distillation process, maybe fractional distillation process. But non-ideal solutions, if you take that, they cannot be completely separated by using any fractional distillation method. So once they are formed, that mixture, it's not possible to separate them by simple or fractional distillation method. So these are certain features of ideal and non-ideal solutions. The differences also can be write like this. Now, what is this Raoult's law? Just now we had a discussion. So this is uh, if we are taking, for example, two liquids. Okay, let us assume that they are volatile. Volatile means they give up some vapor, they vaporize. So if the liquids are very volatile, then the vapor pressure is formed above that what liquids, and in pure form. That is, for example, if you take A, liquid A, and take liquid B, both are separate. Then liquid A has its pure form in pure liquid A. There is no other component there. So whatever the vapor pressure at a particular temperature called P naught A. And if you take pure B, only B, that is at a fixed temperature, then the vapor pressure is again called P naught P. So that is pure vapor pressure at a given temperature. When you mix up these two in some ratios, whatever it may be a 50-50 ratio or 40-50 ratio, whatever the number of moles we are adding, A and B. Now that mole fraction, already we know the mole fraction means number of moles of a particular component by total number of moles. We are adding A plus B. Then if you want to calculate mole fraction of A, then the formula is number of moles of A by number of moles of A plus number of moles of B. So that is the total number. So that is called mole fraction. So that is called XA. The indication is XA. Here it is given. So here the formula of Raoult's law is that this partial pressure, that means when A, B are combined, then whatever the pressure, vapor pressure of A molecules only, vapor pressure of A molecules is equal to the pure vapor pressure of A molecule. That is when it is taken in pure form. Okay, that is the pure vapor pressure of molecule A into mole fraction of A. So if you take this product, that gives you partial pressure of A, that is the vapor pressure given by A in the mixture. This is PA. This is vapor pressure given by the A only when A is taken pure. XA is the mole fraction of A in the mixture. So this is the combination. This is the formula. So partial pressure of A is equivalent to the vapor pressure of pure A multiplied with the mole fraction of A in the given mixture. So that is Raoult's law. Okay. Now let us when we are mixing two volatile liquids, then both the liquids are volatile. That means both are converting into vapor. So they contribute to the vapor. The total vapor pressure is always vapor pressure given by A and plus vapor pressure given by B. So PT is equal to, this is the total vapor pressure of the total mixture is equal to vapor pressure of the partial vapor pressure of A plus partial vapor pressure of B. That is A molecules pressure and B molecules pressure in the mixture. And Raoult's law tells that this A molecules PA value is equal to mole fraction of A into P naught of A molecules. Similarly, PB is given as mole fraction of B multiplied with the P naught of B. That is pure B vapor pressure multiplied with mole fraction. Similarly, PA value is pure vapor pressure of A multiplied with mole fraction of A. So this is what, and always remember that mole fraction of A plus mole fraction of B is equal to 1. So this is a general idea of Raoult's law. So this is how we apply Raoult's law to ideal solution. And you look at this diagram, we can easily understand what is the meaning of this. So look at this diagram. Here vapor pressure is the Y scale and an X mole fraction is taken. So on the left side, XA is equal to 1. That is only A molecules are there, B is 0. But if you keep going right side, slightly XB is added, gradually XA is decreasing. And if you go to the right side end, XA becomes 0, XB equal to 1. That is 100% B. And on the left side 100% A, right side 100% B. In the middle it is a combination of A to B. And if you take only A, the pure A has vapor pressure P A naught. And if you take only B, the pure B has vapor pressure P B naught. And if you take the vapor pressure of the mixtures with different composition, it is moving. This is the total vapor pressure. This upper line is total vapor pressure PT, which is always equal to PA plus PB. So it is a combination of PA and PB. And let us assume PB is a higher vapor pressure, PA is a lower vapor pressure, and this connecting line itself gives the total vapor pressure of the mixture in different proportions. If you look at this dotted line, this is the vapor pressure, partial vapor pressure of A component only. So at this level it is a maximum, but if you go right side, as A mole fraction is decreasing, its partial pressure is also decreasing, and once it comes to this place it becomes 0. Similarly, B value also at this level it is maximum. The partial vapor pressure of B, when you go to left side, that is mole fraction is decreasing here, therefore PB value also decreasing. So this is the partial vapor pressure of B only. This is partial vapor pressure of A only. This is total vapor pressure, isn't it? So wherever you want to calculate A value, total value, then you have to calculate PB plus PA. That gives total. That's it. And this is the vapor pressure diagram according to what Raoult's law. This is for ideal case. Yeah, this is for ideal case when both A and B are volatile liquids. So Raoult's law is how we are explaining just now. So look at this diagram again. So pure B on the left side, pure A on the right side. This PA value vapor pressure of A, PB is nothing but vapor pressure of B, 0% A here, 100% B. When you go to right side, pure B is 0 and pure A is 100%. Partial pressure is always given as PA is equal to XA into PA naught. Already we know that. So this is what. Now second most important law is Henry's law. How it is applied for liquids, that solutions. Henry's law tells that if whenever some gas is dissolved in a solution, and then it depends on the pressure of that particular what gas we are applying that. So the concentration of a dissolved gas in a solution is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas above the solution. Depending on the pressure, the Henry's law tells that the concentration varies. If you apply more pressure, more gas enters into the solution. If you apply less pressure, less gas enters into the solution. So this all depends on the nature of the gas what we are applying. Most accurately for dilute solutions of gases that do not dissociate or react with the solvent. For example, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, which do not react with the solution, that's why it is applied. Whereas it is not applied for HCl and HCl, which can further interact with the solvent. Now, look at this non-ideal solutions. This is a Raoult's law. When you apply for non-ideal solution, what happens? You see, already we know that for ideal solution, how the line should be, the PT value, how it is changing. But when you look at this for non-ideal solution, there are two important observations here. On the left side, the line should be like this, straight line, but it is, when you practically observe, it is like this. It is above the expected value. And even partial pressures are also above the expected value. Partial pressure of A and B both are above the expected values. Similarly, this is called positive deviation. That means the values are above expected value. Similarly, there are some cases where the values are less than expected. that is below the expected value. So if you take this total value, it is coming like this. It's downfall. For partial pressure also down. For partial pressure of B also down. So A and B is also partial pressures are less than expected. Total pressure is also less than expected. This is called negative deviation. So why this type of deviations are possible? The reasons are very simple. If a molecule, if they got PA, PB and PT are greater than the reading. A and B hate each other. That means they don't have proper attraction forces are not proper. So if A, B don't have proper attraction forces, that means they are not having proper interactions with each other, they can easily be converted into vapor. So that is the reason why we expect more vapor than exact Raoult's law. So that is positive deviation. So intermolecular attractions are not good enough. That gives that they repel each other. AB repel each other. That gives positive deviation. If AB attract more than what we expect, that means there is a strong internal attraction forces exist between AB. Then they do not vaporize easily. That's why that vapor will be less than what we expect. So that is the main reason for negative deviation. So interactions are very strong, that gives negative deviation. And if the molecular interactions, that is AB molecular interactions are weak, then that gives positive deviation. So this is the main difference between what positive and negative deviation, and for also we call this as non-ideal solutions, so which either give positive deviation or give negative deviation. Now we will enter into the new concept, the azeotropes. What is this azeotrope? Azeotrope is called as a constant boiling mixture. In fact, we should understand what is this meaning of constant boiling mixture. So whenever we boil a mixture, whenever we boil a mixture, the point is depending on the nature of the two different components. That is, the mixture has two A, B. For example, A and B, both the liquids are there. We have taken the mixture. When you boil this, that whatever the vapor is formed, in that vapor, the liquid proportions and vapor proportions are different, because in the liquid if it is 60-40%, in the vapor it will be something different, it is some 40-60%. Okay, or it may be some 20-30%, or it may be 20-80%, or whatever it may be. So depending the nature of the components A and B, that ratio in the liquid and ratio in the vapor are different. If that is the case, then only we call that as normal geotropes. But azeotropes means there comes a point, a situation comes in such a way that whatever the ratio AB is having in liquid, the same ratio is also observed in vapor. That means the proportion is they are in exist y in the liquid form. In vapor also they are exist. If they are 40 is 60 in the liquid form, the vapor also they are 40-60. If that is the case, then what happens? That is the main problem where we cannot separate further. That means if you keep on boiling, the same liquid gets converted into vapor, and after cooling, this it will be again converted back into liquid. That means you cannot separate further. If the difference in the boiling points is there between two liquids, then we can separate them. That is the key idea behind separating two liquid mixtures. Even though they are completely miscible, we can separate them if and only if they have different boiling points. But this kind of azeotropes when formed, that means the liquid proportion and vapor proportions are same. That is called constant boiling mixture. So it is a mixture of two or more liquids whose proportions cannot be separated by simple distillation. Why this happens? Because the liquid form, they are whatever the proportion they have, they also have same composition in vapor. So the composition or proportions are same in liquid and vapor. So this is what we call as boiling without changing. That is the main meaning. Azeotrope means boiling without changing. In the most of cases, whenever we boil, liquid has some different composition. AB ratio will be different. In vapor, the AB ratio is different. But whereas if it is azeotrope, It is not different. Both are same. Liquid form and vapor form. Both have same ratio, composition. So that is the meaning of constant boiling mixture. There are two different types of azeotropes here. One is minimum boiling azeotrope, another is maximum boiling azeotrope. Minimum boiling azeotrope. What does it mean? Minimum boiling azeotrope means the boiling point of this azeotrope is lower than the boiling points of the constant. That means if you take A and B, then we are taking A with certain boiling point, B with certain boiling point, and if they are allowed to evaporate, boil continuously the mixture. When you boil that, then the constant boiling point, constant boiling mixture is boiling at a temperature which is less than two boiling points, isn't it? This solution exhibits large positive deviation from Laurent's law and also large vapor pressure difference of components. Best examples are ethanol boils at 78.4 degrees centigrade, water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. But the azeotrope, when you take that azeotrope, which boils at 78.2 degrees centigrade, which is less than both values. Okay, so this is called minimum boiling azeotrope. Similarly, we have maximum boiling azeotrope. That means the azeotrope, the constant boiling azeotrope boils at a higher value than both the individual boiling points. If this maximum boiling azeotrope occurs if the solution exhibits negative deviation. If there is a negative deviation, then this case is observed because vapor pressure is directly proportional to the boiling point. So, for example, if you take hydrochloric acid, which boils at 84 degrees centigrade, and water at 100 degrees centigrade, but the azeotrope boils at 110, of course, 108 something, 108 degrees centigrade, which is higher than both. What constant boilings? See this ethanol and water. This is minimum boiling azeotrope. You can clearly see this. Water is boiling at 100 degrees centigrade, and here this is pure alcohol, which is boiling at 78.5 degrees centigrade. But this mixture, and you see this is boiling at 78.2 degrees. That means at this particular proportion, not on this side. On this side, you see these two are. This is very important to understand. The vapor composition. This is liquid composition. So whenever you take this composition, for example, at C2, if you take at C2, you start boiling. This is the composition of liquid, and the vapor is having composition like this. So the ratios are different, isn't it? The ratios are different. So similarly, wherever you take that, there are this is the difference in the line is always having two lines. Vapor line is something different. Liquid composition line is something different. But at this level, it is merged. That means vapor and liquid both have same composition. And that case is 95.6% ethanol and remaining is water. In that particular composition, if you start boiling, whatever the ratio is there in the liquid, the same ratio is observed in vapor also. So you cannot further separate that mixture. That's called ethanol water azeotrope. And that is, it starts boiling at 78.2 degrees centigrade, which is less than 178.5, the original values of two boiling points of ethanol as well as water. This is the diagram of ethanol water azeotrope. So already we know that the mixture of HCl water system. Let us take HCl water system. This is 100 degrees centigrade water boils and HCl boils at 80 degrees centigrade. If you take the mixture that is 22.2% of mass water, that boils constantly at 108 degrees and 0.6 degrees centigrade. And this is how we can observe the diagram. Okay, the diagram is not given here. Okay, fine. So diagram will be having same type, but with a particular ratio, that is 22.2% ratio, it will move upside. Okay. And what is the meaning of distillation? Distillation refers to the selective boiling and subsequent condensation of a component in a liquid mixture. Here distillation is simply when we take two mixtures, that is two components A and B, and if the boiling point is different, then by heating we get only one liquid will be converting into vapor and keeping the other liquid intact in the liquid form. So if the difference in the boiling points is there, then we can what just by heating only one. You see here, this is a mixture. We heat up to the boiling point of only one. So which is having lower boiling point. First goes up here, and when it comes through a condenser where a cool water is running, so that vapor comes through this condenser, then it gets cooled and that is converted into liquid form. So in this case, only one component, that is only A or B, is coming out, and the remaining part is there only. So this is how we separate, and this is possible only when the boiling points are different. Boiling point is same, we can't do this process. So this distillation is possible if the boiling points are different. And the fractional distillation means there is a simple difference here. Simple distillation means the boiling points difference is large enough, then we can use simple technique. There are some cases where the two liquids have very narrow boiling points. The boiling points are very near. In such cases, both start boiling, and it is not that easy to get only one liquid separately from the other. If the gap is the boiling points difference is very high, we can easily separate. But if it is very less, then we use a different column which is called fractional column. See this fractional distillation cases that we use if the boiling points are very near to each other. Then we use some different column called fractional column. By using fractional column, we separate two liquids with nearly same boiling points. So that is the main purpose of using what heat. They have it is involving several vaporization condensation steps. That's it. That means several times it vaporizes and again condenses, and one liquid comes back, another liquid goes up. Both get into vaporization, and during this fractions in the column, one liquid is slowly coming back in the form of liquid, and the other liquid which is more volatile, which is having lower boiling point, will be moving upside into the form of vapor only. So that at the end of the fractions, you see here there are so many, this is fractional column. So the setup is everything same, only this column is fractional column. In the normal case, it is normal column, whereas in this particular case, it is fractional column. So at this fractional column, whatever the vapor is coming, both vapor come. And here the lower boiling point will be continuing in the form of vapor, whereas the higher boiling point, that is which is boiling at a higher temperature, it what it remains as it is getting converted into liquid form and it comes back. The liquid comes back and the liquids will fall down, whereas the one which is more volatile will be moving upside only. So this process is what continued through using fractional type of distillation column. And now we are looking at the partial miscible liquids. Already we know that partial miscibility is nothing but to some extent they miscible, but if you continue in different ratios to take they don't mix up. So you can find in a particular ratio they mix up, but if you what change the ratio, they don't mix up. When they are totally miscible in particular ratio, when they are mixed in a particular ratio, then they form a single phase. That means it looks like a pure what mixture, that is pure solution. But if you change that ratio, then you get two phases. That means it will be having like a non-miscible, it is a purely immiscible type. So this is a common situation which is generally observed in when there we add up polar with non-polar. So this is a specific cases. Polar solvent liquid is when added to non-polar. And this possibility of temperature, how temperature affects this partial immiscibility of liquid. Yes, temperature affects a lot here. There are cases where with temperature the solubility increases. Okay, that is the best example is water phenol. And in some cases, when you decrease the temperature, there is solubility decreases during the what increase in the temperature. And in some other cases, whether you increase or decrease, solubility increases. So only specifically three cases. When you increase temperature, solubility increases. When you decrease temperature, solubility increases. And in some other cases, whether you go upside or you go downside, solubility increases after a particular level. So this is what the case. And there is fourth case where solubility is not affected by temperature at all. So there are some examples. Let's take up this. This is called upper CST. This is critical solution temperature. So already we know that critical solution temperature. Here, what happens? The temperature where the liquids become miscible. That means if you keep raising the temperature, the miscibility increases, and after a particular temperature, they completely are miscible. No more two phases. So look at this. This is the TC. Okay, TC. This is proportionate, 0 to 1% proportionate. That means their compositions are different here. So once you cross this particular temperature, whatever the proportions they have only one phase. That means totally miscible. So this temperature above which they are completely miscible are called upper CST, critical solution temperature. And below this critical solution temperature, they may be single phase, they may be two phases. That means they may be completely miscible or they may be immiscible. Right? So this depends on the ratio. You see this, that ratio will be like this. So that is also having a curve like yeah, like a parabolic curve. So inside this two phases, outside this single phase. So whatever the ratio we can observe on the x-axis. We have a good number of examples here. Let us take this. Yeah, the best example is water phenol. This is there in the syllabus. So here look at this water phenol. Here on the left side, this is phenol in water. So phenol is 0% here. If you keep going right side, phenol percentage is increasing. At the right end, phenol is 100%. And look at here on the left side, it's pure water. So this is single phase, and up to 11% at 50 degrees centigrade. We are talking up at 50 degrees centigrade. Up to 11% of phenol you find a single phase that is completely miscible. 11% it is miscible. It appears as single phase. But after 11% we find two phases. That means we see water and phenol separately. So that miscibility is there up to 7%, isn't it? And it keeps on going. If you go on adding the proportionation, then the different compositions find different layers. You see this here, in the what test tube we find different layers. Again after 63%, here this is 63%. After 63%, again you find single layer. That means everything is phenol, no more water. So between B and C, you see this. During A, pure water, phenol is dissolved up to 11%. And after 11%, we find different phenol water separate phases, two phases. And after C, that means 63% phenol is there, water is just 27% something. Then, okay, sorry, 33% something. Then after that, we find only phenol, no more water. So that is the what single phase again. This is one case with respect to temperature 50 degrees. But if you raise temperature up to 66.8 degrees centigrade, that is critical temperature, upper critical solution temperature, above this temperature, whatever the proportion you find only one liquid, that is completely miscible, water, phenol, whatever the ratio they are in, that composition has nothing to do. So 66.8 degrees above, it will be a uniform layer, only single phase. So this is what we have just now uploaded. It is the maximum temperature at which the two phases regions exist. In the case of the phenol water system, it is 66.8 degrees centigrade. Okay, all combinations of phenol and water above this temperature are completely miscible. You find only one phase, and below this you find different two phases up to 11%, that is pure, and after 63% again single phase, and between these two we find different phases, that is at particular line. That so this is already we at 50 degrees centigrade we have explained, isn't it? At different temperatures that values will be different, that percentage values will be different. You find experimental they are determined. Now let us take example of lower CST. This is just now we have seen that with the increase in temperature, visibility increases. Whereas there are some cases where if you decrease the temperature, then miscibility increasing. That is, they are becoming pure miscible. This is the second example where triethylamine water is a wonderful system. So if you keep on decreasing the temperature at 19 degrees centigrade, after below 19 degrees, they are totally single phase. That means they are mix up. So this is something different. So above 19 degrees they exist as two phases, but below 19 degrees they exist as single phase. So this is how we can see. So this diagram, you see this here 19 below 19 only one phase, triethylamine and water, whatever the ratio they exist as single phase. But above this, depending on the ratios, they either they may be single phase on this corner, but in the middle they are two phases. So most of the parts they are in two phases. So above 19 degrees, even if you keep to high extent, they remain as two phases only. So this is what we call as lower critical solution temperature, lower CST. So it is contrary to the previous example. And nicotine water. This is this is a new third example where we find lower CST as well as upper CST. It has both the ends, the limitations. That means if you keep going to higher temperatures after a limiting value, that is 210 degrees, above 210 they are totally mixed up, and below 61 they are totally mixed up. So it has both ends. 61 is the lower end, lower CST, and 210 is the higher CST. And after 210 single phase, below 61 single phase, and in between 61 to 10 they exist as two phases. That means they remain as partially miscible. The components are therefore miscible in all proportions below 61 and above 210, and they are partially miscible between 61 and 210. You see this, the diagram is like a egg in the middle. So in the middle there are two phases in between this 61 and 210, and above 210 single phase upper CST, and 61 is the lower CST. Below lower CST it is single phase. And here also this left side ratio, whatever the proportionates, the composition, these compositions again give you single phase, and only inside this circle you find two phases. So depending on the what conditions, the composition also we find whether it is two phase mixture or single phase mixture. So this is what we consider for partially miscible solutions. We find only upper limitation, that is upper CST, and we have examples with only lower CST, and we have examples with both, that is upper and lower CST. That the best example is nicotine water. There are cases where we do not have any critical solution temperature. That means whether you increase temperature, whether you decrease temperature, you don't find any increase in the mixing of this miscibility does not affect it. The best examples are ethyl ether and water. If you combine this, neither upper nor lower CST exists for this. So such cases are also there for partial miscible solutions. So this is there up to in your syllabus. Thank you.